Hello and welcome to Hot Issues. This week we are delving into a very, very interesting issue. In fact, there are two issues that we're going to couple. We're going to couple sports and corruption. And we do have an extraordinary guest in the studio. Welcome to Hot Issues. Hello and welcome to Hot Issues, and I'm sure that you've already heard a lot about Sepp Blatter, the World Football Organization, FIFA, and some have spoken about the GFA and so on. We are talking entirely today about sports and corruption, and we are particularly privileged to have with us in the studio somebody who's been involved in sports and who is a very, very serious Ghanaian businessman. We are talking to Mr. Kofi Amoah. Sir, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Kofi. Good to see you.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I've heard a lot about your involvement in sports. Mm-hmm. What is the extent of this involvement?
Well, I love sports, as most Ghanaians do. And then when Ghana decided in 2004 to go and bid for the 2008 hosting of the Africa Cup of Nations, I was involved in the committee and ended up chairing the bid committee, and we were lucky to win. And then we had to set up a local organizing committee to organize the hosting. And I was made the chairman of that. And it was a very interesting experience working with CAF, Confederation of African Football, working with the FIFA inspectors. So it opens the doors for us to get a peek into the organization, management, and the personalities involved in world football and African football. It put Ghana on the map. The 2008 event is something that comes with great memories. I think it was a fantastic occasion. Our women who were usually not interested in sports, wearing their T-shirts, trooping to the stadium, using our culture as an opening ceremony, billions of people around the world watching us, selling the pieces of ourselves, our kente, our trinkets, people taking it all over the world. So football is a great platform that I think nations can use to brand themselves, and we did do that in the 2008 tournament.
What are some of your most remarkable memories, personal memories?
Well, Mr. Pratt, building 2 brand new stadiums and refurbishing the Kumasi Sports Stadium from ground to the top and the Accra Sports Stadium. So in the end, we have this world-class 4 really brand new stadia. Architectural edifice was fantastic. But the pleasant memories was going to Wembley Stadium to study how $1 billion edifice for sports can cash flow and make a profit. Because when we were doing it, we knew that some African nations who had hosted, after the end of the tournament, the stadia that they built had become white elephants. So we didn't want that to happen to us. So we opened our minds to, let's study, how do these people do it? So we went to Wembley Stadium and they gave us a beautiful tour. But the amazing thing that we found was that about 70 to 80% of the revenue that come in have nothing to do with football. Concerts, all kinds of shows, meeting rooms, restaurants. So that's how we designed the Tamale One and the Esipon Stadium. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to bring ours to the final completion of what was designed. And now we have to find money from somewhere to go and fix it. So it was a beautiful period. We thought we made something good for the nation, this stadia. We didn't win the tournament. We got bronze. We wanted to win, but we couldn't win. Every country wants to win, but we got a medal. So I cherish that memory. And I was very privileged to be among a group of Ghanaians, all very, very focused. We invited people from the financial institutions, from big Ghanaian companies. Ghanaian companies were contributing a lot of money to help sponsor it. And they also benefited, through the exposure that they got. Our ladies who want to sell things and all of that all came and made some money. So football can become a great platform for business development. And I think with the passion that we have for football, if we organize it properly, it can become a strong appendage to our economic infrastructure.
But the beautiful stadia that you helped to build and design and so on have all become white elephants, haven't they?
Well, that is the part that I grieve. You know, the last time I went to Tamale, TSK, I couldn't enter. But you see, this is where, as a people, we need to really finally come to terms with how we behave. If you're going to invest a small country like Ghana, close to $300 million to host one fiesta, international fiesta, you do your best thinking in the beginning. Why are we going to spend this kind of money? How is it going to benefit us? So we did a very thorough cost-benefit analysis and gave it to the government, President Kofi's government. Say, take a look at the commitment you have to make before we go and bid. Because when we bid and win, you have to spend this money. Mm-hmm. But if you spend this money, in our estimation, if we do it and take these steps, it will be very beneficial to the nation. Mm-hmm. So, like, part of it is how we designed the stadium to avoid it becoming white elephants. We built in hotels. They have 40-room hotels, which has never been finished. And if these hotels were finished and put to good use, then there will be a cash flow to go and maintain it. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to go and use tax revenue to do that. So when I heard that we're going to bid for the 2017, I made my voice heard that this is the wrong time to do that. Let's finish the process we started and make it begin to benefit us before we go and do something else. But I think Ghana has a great stake in global football. You know, I mean, if you look at the history of football, since 1863, that the English Football Association was formed. And with the coming of the slave traders and all of that, playing the game here and then playing with the natives, Cape Coast, the southern part of Ghana, became the center of football. Accra has of course over 100 years old. So we've been doing this for a very long time. So you would think that by now we will be a strong football nation, not in the sense of just playing the game, but in the sense of creating a business around it. You know, right now our best players have to be sold. It's like a willing slave trade. Mm-hmm. We're selling our own people so that they can go and make money, and they are making millions off of our own people. We haven't learned how to use our own people to create a strong industry that will percolate to help us. And I think this is where we need to be talking seriously and make the changes.
In bidding for CAN 2008, you obviously dealt with FIFA officials, you dealt with CAF officials, and so on. Did you, in that process, have any inkling about corruption in international sports?
Well, that's a very good question and a tough one. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a direct sight of my eyes on money changing hands, but the talk is around. You know, even when we are playing these games, Ghana versus another country, sometimes people ask you, "Have you done your homework? Have you seen the referees?" So it is a known thing, you know, and so all these things that is happening now, for the world to see the reality of global football, I think hopefully the cleansing can be complete, and the cleansing can include cleaning up African football, cleaning up Ghana football, so that yes, it's a game, it's entertainment, we all love it. But I think principles, morality, transparency, and accountability are very critical in growing anything to get progress. So there's corruption in football, in African football. There's corruption in global football. With the arrest of the 7 FIFA executives who have been indicted by the United States legal system, now the cat is out of it's out in the open. And how we deal with it is the next issue.
What is the nature of this corruption, you know, in football throughout the world? What is the nature? What is being corrupted? What is being stolen? How is it done, you know?
Well, I haven't done it before, so I already know how it's done. But let me protect myself. But I think, Kofi, you know, any organization, club, association that monitors itself, manages itself, after a while, self-interest trumps group interest. They begin to hear the echo of their own voices. And what we are seeing now is an example of that. You know, once somebody is benefiting from a certain structure, I wouldn't say everybody will go along with it, but most people just go along because they are benefiting, you know. So this is why I think this kind of corruption has gone on for so long. Now we are seeing millions of dollars being tossed around, 10 million from South Africa to CONCACAF. That's what exactly happened. So I think it's the nature of the organization of these institutions that create this comfort zone for the organizers to think that they can do what they want because nobody can check.
First of all, what is the nature of these organizations? I mean, FIFA is supposed to be an elected body. Various football associations from the world meet together to elect officers. Supposed to be a democratic platform, isn't it?
Well, it's a democratic platform within the organization. So once they are in there, they are democracies for themselves. But we, the viewers, we, the people with a passion for the game, who are watching it, it gets to a point we have no say-so. As a matter of fact, governments, you know what has happened in Ghana. Governments are barred from certain areas. In Ghana, we have to form the public interest committee to really look at the interests of government because we do give some money to the Ghana Football Association. So from that angle, we can have a peek into what you're doing. But the structure of it, for instance, you have no say as to who is elected. Only the people inside do the election. And you saw what happened. Blatter, yes, was elected. But when you pierce the veil and look inside, you see all this garbage. You know. So yes, it's democratic. A group of people within the mafia is democratic. When the mafia boss dies, they have to select the next one. So you can say that it's democratic. But democracy in that sense, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is for the public good. It is for the group good. It's for the global good. And I think the cleansing that is starting now, I hope that we Africans can take a look at it. I'm not here to castigate anybody, but the opportunity I had to see the workings of football management in Africa, Mr. Issa Hayatu, a good friend of mine, he's done wonderful, but I think after 18 years in anything, one must buy down. And that is characteristic of the football world. Havelang was there for many years. Blatter has come, he's there forever. You know, you look at the CONCACAF area, these guys you're talking, they've been there forever. So there must be term limits. Regardless of how intelligent you are to anything, it gets to a point where they say if water stands in one place, it starts to smell. You must have a change for new blood to come in so that creativity will come in and you don't become too comfortable and start doing things that are not good for the public good.
I've just been wondering, you know, I mean, everybody's on African governments to have term limitations and so on. But you come to world football and you have the Europeans in there, you have the Americans in there, you have the Latin Americans in there and so on, and there's no term limitation, and yet it's democratic.
Well, that's the point, Mr. Pratt. It's like it's democratic within it, and so long as people are benefiting, they will work together to protect the interests of the organization, even though there's cancer in there. And now, if the American legal system had not, stretched its arms, this will keep going on because Mr. Blatter was democratically elected. But 2 days later, he saw that he had to buy out because another arm is coming. Now, the American in 1970 enacted a law called RICO. Really, it was done to try to chase the mafia. The mafia too couldn't be touched, So it is this law that you are using that so long as an organization does some business in America, if you have a bank account in America, if you sell television rights in America, our law must be able to touch you. And this is where that law is reaching out to FIFA and hopefully to cleanse it for us.
How is the structure of FIFA replicated down the line? For example, is CAF a miniature of FIFA? Is the GFA a miniature of CAF and so on? How is the FIFA structure, copied down the line?
I think you use the right word, miniature. Yeah. So you have the superstructure, which is the FIFA, okay, which governs global football. Now, the world is broken down into regions. So in Africa, we have the Africa Confederation of African Football that administer the football on the African continent. You have CONCACAF, which is in the Caribbean region, you know. Then you have the Asian Football Federation. Then you have UEFA for the European Football Association. I think there are 5 or 6 different groups like that. And the structure is similar. In FIFA, you have 24 executive committee members. And for instance, if a hosting right is being given, they are the ones who will make the decision. In CAF, you have 14 executive members. So for the rights to host the Africa Cup of Nations, these are the people who make the decision. But the stipulations, the legal stipulations are very similar in terms of the rules of the game, in terms of refereeing, in terms of the technical aspects of the pitches, the doping, how you referee the game. Is very, very similar. They are miniature of the larger whole, you know. So, and they are also all kind of insulated from intrusiveness.
Outside interference.
Yes, outside interference. The global is, you know, like I say, if the Americans didn't come in, it will go on forever. If you remember, when I was on the management board of the FA with Nyamu Tamaklo, something happened. Honorable Tamaklo took us to FIFA, and it's cascaded to begin to make changes. Because hitherto, it was government who appointed 2 people to the board. One will be the chairman, and then the Galka will also appoint. But after FIFA looked into that, the whole thing changed. Now, the president of the Ghana Football Association is elected by their own members, and decisions are taken by their own. They get some subventions from FIFA. I think they get $550,000 a year from FIFA. CAF gets about $5 million a year from FIFA. FIFA is a very rich organization. As a matter of fact, they spent over $3 billion over the last 15, 20 years developing world football. So they do some good, you know, pitches, training referees. Ghana, for instance, the Go project gave us Pram. The GFA headquarters was, I think it's cost $500,000. FIFA paid $400,000. Ghana government paid, GFA paid $100,000. So these are positive things, you know, that they do. I mean, everything is not bad. But I think the angst of the world is the seeming corruption that people know is going on, but they can't put their hands on it and they can't stop it. You know, how are the hosting rights given, for instance? And then when you look at it, you see that some countries are paying bribes. Now, sometimes I sympathize with the Europeans. We started the game, this and that, and we are not being given the chance to do this and that. But I think, Mr. Prafo, we Africans, our thinking sometimes has to be selfish. What do we have to do to make the game truly benefit us? You know, some people say that if it's just talent, African nations will always win the World Cup. But it's not just talent. It's administration, governance, it's infrastructure investment, you know. So if, say...
And it is corruption also.
Yes. But if it's corruption, then do the corruption in a positive way that helps your country. You know what I'm saying? I don't condone that, but if it's something that you cannot eliminate, then it must go in a direction to benefit your people. But it's not benefiting us, you know. Like I said, our best players have to be sold. You know, our local league is nothing to write home about. We are not making money to invest in further infrastructure. You know, so these are the areas that I think we should be looking at.
Well, hello and welcome back to Hot Issues, and we are in conversation with our very good friend and businessman and sports enthusiast, Mr. Kofi Amoah. We are talking about FIFA, we are talking about the African Football Confederation, and we will be talking substantially about the Ghana Football Association and corruption and how to democratize these institutions. Now, before we went on the break, I wanted you to reflect on how we can make these institutions transparent. What reforms may make these institutions transparent?
That's a tough question. I'll take a crack at it. I think if you look at corporate governance, for instance, the owners will form a board of directors. But in forming the board of directors, they will bring what we call independent directors. They have nothing to do with the business, they have no ownership, but they have respectable skills in that industry or in that kind of company. And they come in with unbiased approach to looking at things. As I said earlier on, these organizations, clubs, FIFAs, that are members of people who are inside, and they manage themselves, they govern themselves, and at some point the private interest overtake the group interest, and sometimes to blind ambition comes in. They see something wrong, but so long as it doesn't affect their personal gain, nothing is done about it. They see opportunities that have helped the larger good, but so long as their personal gains are there, nothing is done. So what I think, and other aspects have also said, is that an organization as FIFA needs to open up and have other independent directors come in. Instead of just, you have to be a member of FIFA, you have to be a member of CAF, you have to be a member of the GFA to be able to go there. Now, if you take Mr. Blatter's resignation speech, he says he's going to hang around until, say, December. Now, if changes are going to be taking place, and he is going to be overseeing this, I think Mr. Blatter must step aside now. Maybe an independent person should be selected, or a council of people who have unblemished record, who have not tainted by any scandal, should take over now so that the real reform can begin to go on. Because let's face it, every individual would like to protect their individual legacy. I've been here for so many years. What is my legacy? So the first call I will make is that Mr. Blatter needs to step aside right now. Now, if you come to CAF, if we're just going down like that, for what helps what, there has to be term limits, like you said earlier on. My friend Mr. Hayatu has done some good things, but it's about time for him to step aside. There are several Africans who are capable, young people who are capable to rise and take this challenge and modernize the structures of CAF, help modernize the structures of the various African football associations, and have the football organization become accountable, transparent, and also beneficial to our economic development and social development. So I think the structures of FIFA as they exist today have added up to their problems. Now let's face it, if the US judicial system had not reached in FIFA, they had to keep going on. The Swedish government is saying that they are looking at other things, but they are not going deep into it. But right now, 7 of their people arrested. They've started talking. Mr. Blatter himself knows that it's coming to him. He stepped aside, not like totally. So I think we need something like that in CAF. Now we come to the Ghana Football Association. The Ghana Football Association, as you said earlier, is a miniature of CAF, it's a miniature of FIFA. So what is happening in FIFA and what I'm proposing to happen in CAF must also happen at the GFA. There has to be term limits. One individual cannot be there forever. If you go back, just because of this, I was looking at all the past GFA chairmen, and they were all there for 4 years. Tamaklo was there for 1 year and my friend, Mr. Gentachi, he's done very well. Let's face it, we've gone to 3 World Cups, we've won the junior championship. I have absolutely no qualm about his performance in terms of bringing laurels to the nation. But he's been there for over 10 years. And I think it will be time that he himself can say that maybe somebody else must come. But the conundrum is this. Now he's a member of the CAF Executive Committee. And the next president of CAF will come from that group. So if we don't make serious changes there and it stays like that, then him stepping aside will be cutting our nose to spite our face. But the question is that, is the interest of Ghana just to get our citizens to chair an organization that is not beneficial to the continent? Or the important thing now is to take a look at what road must we travel on CAF to benefit Ghana and benefit the continent. So when we take these two things aside, then you would think that there has to be some change, even though it may go against our own interests in having one of our citizens become the president of CAF. But on the area of corruption, corruption, as people say, is like pregnancy. At some point it will show. You cannot hide it forever. Even though FIFA thought that they are insulated, ironclad and all of that, now it's coming to the surface. We all know that even inside Ghana in the league, referees are bribed. The GFA itself has made an announcement that they try to do something about that. I remember when I was the management board and our qualification match to go to our first World Cup appearance, Germany, where our first match was with Burkina Faso. And then we went to Burkina Faso, and I don't know if I say this publicly, but we needed to see the referee. And the referees were from Nigeria. They were Nigerians. And the Burkina-Faso put them in a hotel and surrounded with the police. We could not get to see them at all, to have any conversation or whatever. So this is the tip of this kind of bribery that we are talking about. And it is known in African football that you are bribing the referees for them to be neutral. Look at that concept. Why should I bribe
you bribe the referees
to be neutral? Because if Team A bribes and Team B doesn't bribe, then he is going to be partial. So you assume that.
So the assumption is that both sides are going to bribe.
Exactly. It's a known assumption.
You bribe for the referee to do his job. Neutral.
Exactly. And sometimes you don't know how much the other person bribed and all. So it's one of these bidding products that keeps going up. So we must be truthful to ourselves and cleanse it and stop it. If it's a question of paying the referees well, if a question of being fair to their skill sets, and therefore they should be compensated properly, so we'll do the job properly to inure to the benefits of the growth of the game. That is what we must do. So in my mind, Mr. Pratt, there's a lot of areas that needs cleansing in the global football community, in the continental football community, and in the national football community. Because if we don't cleanse it, then we are building up on sand. And you look at a Ghana League, for instance. The other day, it was being proposed by the FA that maybe we should ban the viewing of foreign leagues so that Ghanaians will be forced to watch the local league. That's not practical. We need to make our local league attractive. We need to make it interesting. We need to make it profitable so we can pay our players, our Ghanaian players who are just as gifted as the European players, maybe not the same multi-million-dollar contracts, but enough that they will stay home and make the game interesting. Because you see, it's the uncertainty principle. If I'm going to watch a game and the best players have been sold, then it's not going to be interesting. If I want to watch Michael Essien, my own citizen who I like to watch, he's playing for Chelsea, so I must be watching Chelsea to see how it's going. So this thing of selling our best, and then you look at the clubs, and to be fair to them, the only way they can make money to run their clubs is to sell their best players.
Modern day slave trade.
Exactly. It's like the drifting of our immigrants over the oceans, dying on the sea, on the desert, to go and make themselves slaves to work in somebody's tomato farm. So leadership of Africa needs to set up. The AU needs to set up. These are all the areas that go to impinge on the negative perception that the world has about Africa. Where is our brain? Can't we think through things? God has given you these skills. Your people can play the game. All you need to do is build it up, administer it properly, organize it properly. I cannot see why, if a Ghanaian league is so well done and so interesting, somebody in Brazil cannot watch us. Somebody in the UK cannot watch us. It's based on the brand that you build. If you build a good thing, as they say, the world will be the path to your doorstep. So it's about time that we as Ghanaians and Africans realize that whatever qualities we have, whatever skills and talents that God has given us, we need to understand how to build it up, administer it properly, and use that to leverage into the international marketplace and make money for our people and make money for ourselves. But this thing about, FIFA is doing so much for us, they are giving us pitches, okay, we welcome that for now. But that in itself, all these years that they've done that, had that helped to change the fortunes of our game? It hasn't. So we need to think differently. I remember, we all know how Kwame Nkrumah used football to put Ghana on the map. We invested in it. We were CK Jeffy, who was the coach, our own coach, was playing games around Europe. We were beating them. We were coming home with more wins than losses, you know. So we've done it before. And I always go back to what the good things that this country has done, that we don't seem to appreciate and jettison it. We are not talking about economics now, so I don't want to bring the cocoa thing into it. But all these things are semblances of the road that we must travel. And if we don't go and look at them and use common sense to guide us, then we'll be the lost people of this planet.
Mm-hmm. So don't you think that it's about time we began rethinking the concepts? Because if you look at the way football is managed today, the impression is that football belongs to the managers. What about the spectators? What about the players? What about the state and so on? Don't you think that we've come to some point where we have to do a rethinking of the concepts?
Well,
for example, if you look at GFA, GFA is made up of managers, perhaps owners, and so on. What about the spectators? What about government? You know, what about all the other institutions and so on?
Yeah, okay. In that sense, the spectator is a customer. So, you have a GFA that is organizing its football games. You have the English Football Association that is organizing its games. So you have these two competing products. Which one is me, the spectator, the customer, going to buy?
But is that the way to look at football?
Well, I mean, for it to be structured properly, to benefit us, that aspect of it must come in. But in terms of the legal...
You see, for example, the Black Stars, Black Matthews, Black Queens, and so on, they are not for the GFA.
No, they are
These
not.
are national teams.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So how come that the GFA, which is only the manager of the national team, cannot be looked into by government? How come the government is stopped from having a clear look into the affairs of GFA? That's the essence of the question.
You are raising very fundamental issues about global football. See, and the reason, this is not just Ghana. If you go to Nigeria, their counterpart leagues like that are managed by the Nigerian Football Association. You go to the United States, the same thing. You go to China, the same thing. And this is the structure that FIFA has created. And the reforms that needs to come into global football, these are some of the issues that will be discussed. You know, because what they're saying is that FIFA, I have to sanction you, the Black Queens, to play a match. I own the Women's Football Association globally. And therefore, I have an organization in Ghana called the Ghana Football Association. That is a member of my organization. And if you want to have a Women's Football Association participate in what I'm doing, the GFA must supervise you. So that's the architecture they have created.
And you have no right to look into the finances of the GFA.
You have right to look into the finance of what you gave them. If you invested something, you can look at that. But they are told that KPMG, the global accounting firm, audits all these FAs around the world. Okay? And that if they do something untoward, it will be visible. But I think the reviews and the changes that must come, one must look at the whole structure of this football enterprise, not only at the FIFA level, but how does it percolate down to the different continental organizations and then down to the different countries. And within the countries, the different football clubs and the different national teams, you know, like the Meteors and all of that. It's going to be a long struggle, but I think it cannot happen under the present watch of Mr. Blatter and the existing executives. And I was reading something just getting ready for here. See, you have organization, and you have to determine, is the organization completely broke? And if it's completely broke, the prescriptions are different. If it's just bent, you can straighten it. You know, we need to turn here. But it seems like in the FIFA case, looking from the bottom up, it needs a complete overhaul. It's broke. And maybe some experts are saying that they need to probably jettison the whole existing structure right now and build a new one, taking into consideration all the problems that we have seen, the corruption that we can detect and all of that. So we wait to see what the final outcome is. But I think Africans must have their voices heard. I was watching a GTV program this morning, and Africa must struggle to get an African to be selected to be the FIFA president. That is not the issue. It is not about individual. It is not about winning points for individuals. You know, of course, if an African is the president of FIFA, I don't mind. Like Barack Obama, a black man, is the president of the United States. It hasn't totally solved the problems of black people in America. You know, so fighting for that thing, I think we must be fighting for something that will truly benefit the game of football.
How do you think that this investigation by the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the United States, how do you think that this would affect, FIFA and football worldwide generally? How would the investigation impact on football administration?
I think it's a tsunami. I think it's going to open up a lot of things because you see, they have Mr. Blazer, who was wearing, wiretapped, and they have a mountain of evidence of the conversations and how bribes, and he himself admitted that 1998, was it France? Bribe was taken. He talked about how much he himself got, and then
South Africa,
South Africa 2010, bribes were taken. So now that someone has come in the open with support documents, FIFA itself has said, we paid the 10 million to CONCACAF to one person to monitor and all of that. And if South Africa is going to invest in promoting proper football progress for people and leaving the Africans, the football on the African continent, this South African football is supposed to enhance the image of all of Africa. And why is the 10 million going to CONCACAF? How much of that money came to any African country? They're saying that Mali and another country got $300,000. So obviously the story that they are telling is not tenable. But I think to answer your question bluntly, I think this investigation by the U.S. Justice Department is going to transform FIFA. Is going to transform global football. I cannot predict what the final look will be, but I hope that Africans will make their voices heard, not in the sense of trying to get positions for individual Africans, but in structures that will benefit the various African countries who would like to play football, and especially my own country, Ghana.
We are talking sports, and we are talking corruption. And, sir, Ghana sports, how do we bring it out? The days of Ethel Jackson and so on are gone. How do we come back as a sporting nation? Not as a footballing nation, though.
Yes.
Sporting nation.
Yes.
How do we come back?
Mr. Pratt, excellent question. And I always believe that policy drives the success of a nation. And by policy, I mean looking at the various aspects of your society that you can use to embellish yourself in whatever direction that you choose to go. Previous governments, especially Nkrumah's government, felt that sports was a cost-effective vehicle for creating some respect for our nation, not only respect in the international community, but for generating self-confidence in our own selves, that we too can be on the international stage and run 100-meter with somebody and look good. And it's important in the global scheme of things that citizens of every community must feel that they are not inferior, must feel that they are capable, and all of that. So how do we go back and not focus only on football? Well, I have said publicly before, because when I was growing up, that's what I saw. I think sports, all kinds of sports, should be pushed back into the educational institutions.
Inter-colleges.
Yes, thank you. Because it's so, you look at the United States, that's the architecture for most of these countries that have good sports prowess. You go to the Greeks who invented this, and the healthy mind is good for a healthy society. And I think that when we are teaching our young people different kinds of subjects, sports must come in there. And then it's a part of their growing up. And it's also a part of the sports development for the nation. And you start with your young people in the school. So the two are together. Now, people have commented publicly about even our football talents who go outside. A lot of times, I'm not trying to put anybody down, but just stated, a lot of times, because of the bad educational preparation, they don't move forward. Whereas when you look at the Beckhams of this world and all of that, a lot of them have bachelor's degrees, and then they are doing their sports. So I think that, for me, a proper policy for sports development must be incorporated into the curriculum of our schools, from the elementary to the secondary to the tertiary. And if we do that, so that's that level. Now, the next level is the football area have become professional in the sense that people, just like a lawyer says, that is how I make my living. I'm a lawyer. I'm an accountant. You can be a footballer. That is your profession. And therefore, it's organized properly. For that to be, then it's become a business. That means that the people who are going to do it must understand what kind of investment do they need to do it properly. What kind of administrative structures do they need? What kind of management staff do they need? Training facilities. Because, look, we can't be a Kotoko or House of Folk and compare ourselves to the great clubs of Europe if everything, your structure is inferior. You have the talent, maybe better than what he has, but your structure is so inferior that you can never be like what they are. So our brothers and sisters who are interested in the field of sports business, entrepreneurship, they must clearly understand what it takes. If you don't have enough money, have a partner. If it takes $1 million to have a good football club, don't go and start with 200,000. And that's what we've been doing. And then it is this inferiority thing, and it's not going anywhere. Now, some nations too, like Egypt, may decide that, okay, this football thing is so important to us that we, the state, through our government, will invest. We will subvent our clubs. We will build them stadia. We will even ante up the salary of the players so that they don't go outside, they will be here. So the European clubs, the Egyptian clubs, you see that they stay in Egypt. Only a few of them go there, and they have won 7 Africa Cup of Nations tournament. They have the record. So it's proof of the pudding is in the eating. That approach that they have taken, at least on the African continent, have proven to work for them. Now, the other sports, tennis, hockey, athletics, they are there. Badminton, table tennis. I used to be a good table tennis player. All these things we must become diverse. I think we are focused too much on football. We must still invest in football, but because I think football can take us further in terms of the international stage and bringing branding to ourselves and putting Ghana on the map. So that is our premier sports. We must protect that. But I think we must not be blinded by only that. We must invest in some of the other areas.
Well, we are in the rainy season. 200 people are already dead as a result of floods and an explosion at a filling station. There's a threat that is going to rain heavily this year. What are your perspectives as a businessman, as a Ghanaian? What are your perspectives, sir?
Well, to use the expression, we are caught with our pants down. And without planning for the future, these kind of things will continue to happen. You and I were talking earlier about Nkrumah's program to create storm drains, all of that. Just before I came in, somebody sent me on WhatsApp plans that had been on the drawing board. And so, Mr. Pratt, my frustration is that I don't think we are wanting in good ideas. I don't think we are wanting in what to do. I think we are wanting in implementation. The talk is too much. Making the wrong appointments is too much. We must give national institutions, important national institutions, into capable hands, and make sure that if we put in a board to organize and all that we have competency in there. And if we do that, I think we'll get somewhere. But right now, what we're doing is like child's play. You know, I don't, like I say, I'm not interested in making anybody feel bad. I don't think I'm better than anybody, but I am a very proud Ghanaian and I'm very passionate Ghanaian and I love my country. I want to see the right things done. But when I see certain appointments and I ask myself, what is the rationale for this kind of appointment? And then we begin to see all these things. So right now the rains are here. I was in Kumasi, I came back, my office was flooded. One of my tenants, a bank, the banking hall was flooded. I saw their files, you know, somebody's loan application, wet and all of that. So please, our leaders must understand that they have a responsibility. Part of this responsibility is enshrined in our constitution, but majority of the responsibilities are common sense, and that we must apply this. And we go in there into politics to help the people. Now look at 200 innocent people just running away from the rain to find shelter. Their bodies are charred, dead. Why would I want to be a citizen of Ghana if I have a choice that this will not happen to me? So it's a wake-up call. The chickens are coming home to roost. Whatever I have said, Mr. Platt, I told you this is not an economic program. But until we create a strong economy, that would then create the wealth and the monies to invest properly. Part of this problem is that we don't have the money. So we become frustrated and start insulting each other. And we don't have the money not because we are poor, but because we think poor. We have rich fertile lands. We have young able bodies, young people coming from the rural areas, boys and girls, standing in the sun. They are not lazy. They are looking for something to do. We have, and if we are not putting them to use so that we can create this wealth and through taxation supplement the revenue to government so we can invest in these public areas like creating storm drains. You cannot go and borrow for consumption. I keep saying this. You go and borrow to come and build a hospital. Hospital is we need the healthcare, okay? But how are you going to pay for it? You must be doing something somewhere to create the wealth that will come and pay for this. Everything we are doing is consumption. And the way we are financing our consumption is through borrowing and begging. I am an embarrassed and ashamed Ghanaian. We have to stop that. We need to look at the production side of the Ghanaian society, making things, putting our people to work, putting our land to work. We have had so many examples. I have told you that the cocoa, we became the world's #1. Let's think through how did we do that. Let's look at maize. Let's look at oil palm. Let's look at the easy things to do, the low-hanging fruits, so that this calamity of our people being burned alive by fire will never happen again.
But sir, the citizens also have a responsibility. All of these leaders are elected by us. Are we not equally responsible? How come that over 20, 30 years, we keep just electing bad leaders all the time? Doesn't that say something about us, the citizens?
It does, but Mr. Pratt, we have to be careful. Otherwise, then we may get into an area where we may think that we are inferior. Experiments have been done. If you take a glass jar, and you put bees in them. Bees, okay? And if you don't cover the jar, what to do? They will fly out. Okay? Now, but if you put them in there and you put the lid on it, they will still try to fly out. But everything they fly, their head hits the lid. So you will see that. Now they are still trying to fly, but then they don't jump as high. Because now the memory is set. That if I jump a certain height, I'll suffer pain. Now they jump halfway and so. Now, after a while, they don't jump at all because they see that the jumping is not beneficial to them. If you go and take the lid off, they will never come out. So I think that as a people, so many things have happened to us in the past. And then we need leadership to wake us up. We have had leaders who have woken us up before. And this is the time that the right leaders must come up and tell us that you are not inferior, you can do this. I'm going to take the lead.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very, very much. Well, we have been in a conversation with Mr. Kofi Amoah, a businessman, maybe I can say a former politician, a sports enthusiast, and somebody who believes in common sense. I hope you have enjoyed it. And if you have enjoyed it, just keep reminding yourself that it's not just about hot issues. It's about everything. It's about entertainment, it's about sports, it's about news. The best of everything is on TV3. Keep your dial here. We'll see you again next week.